The massive silhouette of the UES horizon blocked out entire star clusters as it emerged from the Luna shipyards. Chief Administrator Elena Rodriguez stood on the observation deck, her reflection ghosting against the transparent aluminum window. 5 kilometers of pure engineering marvel stretched before her, a testament to human ambition and technological prowess. The Galactic Concordance monitoring stations had been tracking the Supercarrier's construction for years. Their diplomatic channels buzzed with increasingly nervous communications. The Vornak hierarchy's intelligence analysts had compiled extensive reports, each more paranoid than the last. Their holographic projections mapped every conceivable weapons configuration, every potential combat deployment scenario. Commander James Chen listened to the encrypted communications, a slight smile playing across his weathered features. The alien observers had no idea what was truly coming. The horizon represented more than just a military asset. It was a floating city, a technological marvel that pushed the boundaries of human engineering. Its fusion reactors could power entire planetary networks. Its medical bays could accommodate thousands of patients from multiple species. Its research facilities were more advanced than most planetary research centers. But the aliens didn't see that. They saw a weapon. Incoming diplomatic transmission, the ship's AI announced. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing Ambassador Krelax of the Galactic Concordance. The methane-breathing diplomat's translucent membranes pulsed with agitation, his multiple eyes focusing on Elena. United Earth representative. Krelax began, his translator producing a carefully modulated tone. The construction of this vessel represents a significant deviation from established galactic protocols. We require detailed specifications and intended deployment protocols. Elena's response was calm, almost disarmingly so. Ambassador, the UES Horizon is a multipurpose research and support vessel. We're happy to provide a preliminary brief. The methane breather's eye stalks quivered. The preliminary brief they received was anything but standard. Instead of weapon systems and military specifications, the documentation detailed medical research capabilities, ecological restoration technologies, and adaptive infrastructure design. Commander Chen watched the diplomatic exchanges with a mix of amusement and strategic calculation. The Concordance expected a weapon of mass destruction. What they were getting was something far more dangerous, a ship capable of solving problems they hadn't even imagined. Deep within the Horizon's massive internal structures, teams of scientists from multiple disciplines were already preparing. Xenobiologists worked alongside terraforming experts. Medical researchers collaborated with cultural anthropologists. Engineers discussed sustainable infrastructure with ecological restoration specialists. The ship was more than metal and technology. It was a statement, a living, breathing representation of humanity's approach to galactic challenges. As the final system checks completed, a subtle energy seemed to pulse through the vessel. The Horizon wasn't just a ship. It was a promise of what humanity could become when it chose collaboration over conflict, innovation over destruction. The Galactic Concordance was about to learn a lesson they would never forget. The transformation began almost immediately after the Horizon's maiden voyage. Where the Galactic Concordance expected weeks of military preparation, they instead witnessed something unprecedented. Dr. Isham Beek, the ship's chief systems integration specialist, oversaw the most radical retrofit in interstellar history. Weapon systems weren't dismantled. They were reimagined. Missile launch tubes became vertical hydroponic gardens. Weapons calibration rooms transformed into medical research centers. The ship's massive energy production capabilities, originally designed to power planet-devastating weaponry, were now configured to support entire ecological restoration projects. "We're not destroying infrastructure," Dr. Make explained to a bewildered Concordance observation team. "We're creating it." The first major project caught the entire galaxy by surprise. The Horizon arrived in the Epsilon Rift, a star system devastated by centuries of resource wars. 3 different species had reduced multiple planets to barely habitable shells. Most civilizations would have written off the system as a lost cause. Humans saw an opportunity. The ship's massive fabrication decks began producing modular infrastructure units. Automated systems deployed self-sustaining habitat modules across the most damaged planetary regions. These weren't temporary shelters. They were the beginnings of entirely new ecosystems. Vornak refugee representatives watched in disbelief as barren regions transformed. Atmospheric processors, originally designed as advanced military-grade environmental control systems, began terraforming processes that would take generations. Solar collection arrays, repurposed from weapon energy systems, now powered restoration efforts. Commander Chen worked alongside Dr. Mbik, coordinating the massive undertaking. Every system on this ship, he would explain to visiting diplomats, was originally designed for destruction. Now we're proving that the same technology can create life. The medical facilities were equally revolutionary. The Horizon's advanced diagnostic systems, initially developed for battlefield triage, now provided unprecedented medical support to multiple species. Researchers discovered that the ship's original military-grade scanning technologies could detect genetic anomalies and potential disease vectors with unparalleled precision. A crystalline collective representative, a being of pure energy and mathematical precision, observed the medical bay operations with growing fascination. The humans were solving medical challenges that had stumped galactic research for centuries. "Your weapon is healing," the representative communicated through a complex translation matrix. "We do not understand." Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now serving as the ship's primary diplomatic liaison, simply smiled. "That's the point," she responded. The humanitarian efforts weren't limited to a single system. The Horizon became a mobile support platform, moving between star systems, providing infrastructure, medical support, and technological assistance. Where military vessels would have brought destruction, this ship brought hope. Orbital fabrication systems began producing specialized medical equipment, agricultural support technologies, and educational resources. The ship's massive data centers became repositories of scientific and cultural knowledge, freely shared across species boundaries. The Galactic Concordance watched, increasingly confused. This was not how a military supercarrier was supposed to behave. This was not how any civilization had ever used such a powerful technological asset. But for the humans, it was just the beginning. The research deck of the UES Horizon defied every conventional understanding of scientific collaboration. Where traditional research facilities were rigid and compartmentalized, this space breathed with possibility. Laboratories flowed into one another, their modular design allowing instant reconfiguration for any conceivable research challenge. Dr. Kenzo Tanaka, the ship's chief of interdisciplinary research, stood at the central hub watching something extraordinary unfold. A crystalline researcher from the Andromeda Nexus worked alongside a methane-breathing xenobiologist from the Vornak hierarchy, their workstations seamlessly integrated through holographic interfaces that translated not just language, but entire conceptual frameworks. Most research facilities are prisons of specialization. Dr. Tanaka would explain to visiting scientists. Here, we break down the walls. The Horizon's most revolutionary feature was its adaptive research infrastructure. Military-grade quantum computing systems, originally designed for tactical analysis, now processed complex scientific models that would have taken traditional research centers centuries to complete. The ship's original sensor arrays, once meant to detect potential threats, now scanned distant star systems with unprecedented precision, gathering data that rewrote scientific understanding. A breakthrough came unexpectedly in xenobiology. Dr. Imani Okoro, leading a team of researchers from 6 different species, discovered a method of cellular regeneration that worked across multiple biological frameworks. The research would have been impossible in traditional facilities. The Horizon's unique environment, with its ability to simulate virtually any planetary condition, allowed for experiments that defied previous scientific limitations. The ship's medical bay became a living laboratory. Researchers discovered that the ship's original military-grade medical scanning technologies could detect genetic markers and potential evolutionary adaptations with a precision that shocked the scientific community. What was once designed to understand potential biological warfare became a tool for understanding life itself. Commander Chen watched as the scientific teams worked, marveling at the controlled chaos. Each research team was a microcosm of galactic potential. Species that had never spoken to each other now worked side by side, their differences becoming strengths rather than barriers. The Galactic Concordance's Research Oversight Committee was initially skeptical. Their traditional model of scientific research involved isolated facilities, strict species-specific protocols, and carefully controlled information sharing. The Horizon shattered every one of those conventions. "We're not just collecting data," Dr. Tanaka explained during a diplomatic briefing. "We're creating a living network of scientific understanding." The ship's data centers became more than just storage facilities. They were living libraries of knowledge, with adaptive AI systems that could translate not just languages, but entire conceptual frameworks. A mathematical model developed by a silicon-based researcher could be instantly understood by a carbon-based scientist, with nuanced cultural and cognitive contexts preserved. Most remarkably, the research was open. Every discovery, every breakthrough was immediately shared across the ship's communication networks, available to any scientist willing to collaborate. The Horizon became more than a research facility. It was a beacon of scientific collaboration. As the ship moved between star systems, it carried with it the promise of a new kind of scientific exploration. No longer confined by traditional boundaries of species, discipline, or technology, research became a truly collaborative endeavor. The galaxy was about to be transformed, one discovery at a time. The diplomatic deck of the UES Horizon was unlike any negotiation space in galactic history. Where traditional diplomatic venues were sterile, rigid, and laden with centuries of mistrust, this space breathed with possibility. Adaptive environmental systems could instantaneously reconfigure to accommodate the specific physiological needs of any species present. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of the main negotiation chamber, watching as delegates from 14 different civilizations prepared for a conference that would have been impossible anywhere else in the galaxy. The chamber itself was a marvel of diplomatic engineering. Its walls were composed of adaptive membranes that could simultaneously translate linguistic, chemical, and electromagnetic communication methods. The current crisis seemed insurmountable. The Rift Cluster, a region of space containing 7 star systems, had been locked in a centuries-long territorial dispute. Previous diplomatic attempts had failed spectacularly, with negotiations typically lasting mere minutes before dissolving into recriminations. The Horizon changed everything. Dr. Kenzo Tanaka's linguistic adaptation algorithms provided real-time contextual translation that went far beyond mere words. The system interpreted cultural nuances, historical contexts, and even subtle emotional undertones that traditional translation methods missed entirely. A statement from a methane-breathing Vornak diplomat could now be understood not just in its literal meaning, but in its full cultural and emotional complexity. The chamber's design was intentional. Where traditional diplomatic spaces forced species into uncomfortable, confrontational arrangements, the Horizon's negotiation area was circular, with adaptive seating that could be instantaneously modified to match each species' physiological requirements. No one sat at the head of the table. Everyone was equal. Commander James Chen watched from an adjoining observation room, marveling at the diplomatic dance unfolding before him. The negotiation wasn't just about territorial claims, it was about understanding. A breakthrough came from an unexpected source. The Crystalline Collective, typically known for their absolute mathematical precision, proposed a resource-sharing model that defied traditional galactic economic understanding. Their proposal, facilitated by human mediators, treated the disputed star systems as a shared ecological and economic zone, rather than competitive territories. Diplomacy is not about winning, Ambassador Rodriguez explained to a perplexed Concordance observer. It's about finding solutions that work for everyone. The ship's massive data centers provided unprecedented context to the negotiations. Historical records, ecological impact studies, economic projections, all were instantly accessible and could be manipulated in real time. Delegates could see the immediate consequences of their proposed solutions, projected holographically around the negotiation chamber. What would have taken decades of negotiations was resolved in a matter of days. The Rift Cluster Agreement became a landmark moment in galactic diplomacy, not because of military might or economic pressure, but because of an unprecedented approach to understanding. The Galactic Concordance watched in bewilderment. This was not how diplomatic negotiations were supposed to work. Humans were rewriting every rule of interstellar relations. As the delegates prepared to sign their historic agreement, Commander Chen allowed himself a small smile. The horizon was proving that the most powerful weapon was not found in a missile tube, but in the capacity to truly understand one another. The planet Xerxes 9 had been a graveyard long before the first survey teams arrived. Centuries of interstellar conflict had reduced the once vibrant world to a toxic wasteland. Radioactive zones stretched across continents. Chemical warfare had rendered entire ecosystems sterile. Most galactic civilizations would have declared the planet beyond redemption. The Horizon's ecological restoration team saw something different. They saw potential. Dr. Imani Okoro stood on the ship's primary observation deck, her dark eyes scanning the holographic representations of Xerxes 9. Beside her, a team of researchers from 6 different species studied the preliminary restoration models. Vornak atmospheric specialists worked alongside silicon-based geomorphologists, their workstations interconnected in a complex dance of interdisciplinary collaboration. Traditional terraforming is like painting with a sledgehammer, Dr. Okoro explained to a junior researcher. We're using a molecular brush. The ship's original military-grade environmental control systems, once designed to create habitable zones for potential invasion, were now being used to heal a wounded planet. Nanofabrication units that could have constructed advanced weapons were instead producing billions of specialized microorganisms designed to neutralize toxic compounds and rebuild ecological networks. Commander Chen watched as the first deployment began. Orbital platforms released carefully engineered atmospheric processors. Devices that could have once been used to create chemical warfare environments now worked to purify and regenerate. Massive robotic platforms descended to the planet's surface, their original combat design stabilization systems now used to create intricate ecological scaffolding. The restoration wasn't just about cleaning. It was about rebuilding entire ecosystems from the molecular level up. Genetic archives recovered from the planet's few surviving biological samples were carefully reconstructed. Species thought extinct were gradually reintroduced, with each organism carefully integrated into a meticulously planned ecological network. The Horizon's medical research facilities proved crucial, providing genetic repair technologies that could heal generations of environmental trauma. A crystalline researcher named Igzek observed the process with growing fascination. The concept of healing an entire planet was foreign to most galactic civilizations. Most would have simply abandoned Xerxes 9 or used it as a cautionary tale. You're not just cleaning, Zixit communicated through the ship's advanced translation matrix. You're remembering. Dr. Okoro smiled. Every ecosystem tells a story. Our job is to help it speak again. The most revolutionary aspect of the restoration was its holistic approach. Traditional terraforming focused on making a planet minimally habitable. The Horizons team was creating a living, breathing ecosystem. Atmospheric processors worked in concert with ground-level microbiological networks. Each intervention was carefully modeled to create a self-sustaining ecological system. Weeks turned into months. The first signs of recovery were subtle. Microscopic organisms began to transform toxic compounds. Carefully engineered lichens started to appear in the most damaged zones. Small pockets of vegetation emerged, defying every scientific prediction. The Galactic Concordance watched in disbelief. This was not how ecological restoration was supposed to work. Planets were not supposed to come back to life so quickly, so completely. But for the humans of the horizon, it was just the beginning of what was possible. The stellar anomaly appeared without warning. A massive gravitational disturbance tore through the Andromeda Arm, threatening to destabilize 3 entire star systems. Most galactic civilizations would have initiated evacuation protocols, preparing to save only their most critical populations and technological assets. The horizon did something entirely different. Commander James Chen studied the holographic representation of the impending disaster. The anomaly was unlike anything in previous scientific records, a quantum-level instability that threatened to unravel the fundamental physical structures of multiple planetary systems. Traditional evacuation methods would save less than 0.03% of the total population. "We're not leaving anyone behind," he announced to the ship's core team. Dr. Elena Rodriguez coordinated the most complex rescue operation in galactic history. The ship's original military-grade energy shields, designed to withstand concentrated weapon attacks, were now being reconfigured to create massive protective bubbles around entire planetary regions. The Horizon's propulsion systems, capable of moving the massive vessel between star systems in moments, became a lifeline. Specialized evacuation modules began deploying, each one a marvel of adaptive engineering. Where traditional escape vessels could support a few hundred individuals, these modules could sustain entire communities, complete with life support, medical facilities, and cultural preservation systems. A Vornak refugee coordinator watched in disbelief as the first wave of evacuations began. The modules weren't just survival pods. They were mobile preservation chambers, cultural archives, genetic databases, and critical infrastructure were being saved alongside living populations. "We're not just saving lives," Dr. Rodriguez explained to the increasingly overwhelmed coordinator. "We're saving civilizations." The ship's medical facilities worked miracles. Advanced scanning technologies, originally designed for battlefield triage, now provided unprecedented support for multiple species simultaneously. The medical bay could adjust its entire environment in moments, supporting everything from methane-breathing entities to energy-based life forms. Zixik, the crystalline researcher, assisted in coordinating the most complex aspects of the evacuation. The ship's quantum computing systems could model evacuation scenarios with a precision that defied traditional understanding. Each module was precisely calculated to maximize survival potential, taking into account not just physical needs, but psychological and cultural requirements. As the stellar anomaly grew, the horizon became a beacon of hope. Its massive energy shields began to interact with the quantum disturbance in ways no one had predicted. Where other civilizations would have seen an impossible challenge, the humans saw an opportunity to understand and potentially neutralize the threat. Specialized research teams worked in real time, using the ship's adaptive laboratories to develop countermeasures. The anomaly wasn't just a threat to be survived. It was a scientific puzzle to be solved. Hours turned into days. The evacuation continued, a ballet of technological precision and human compassion. Entire planetary populations were moved, their entire existence transferred to safe zones with a level of care that seemed impossible. The Galactic Concordance watched in total amazement. This was not how crisis response was supposed to work. Civilizations were not supposed to be saved so completely, so quickly. But for the humans of the horizon, it was just another day of doing the impossible. The Galactic Conference on Technological Development had never seen anything like this. Delegates from 217 different civilizations gathered in the horizon's massive central conference hall, their traditional barriers of mistrust and competition slowly dissolving. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of the chamber, her presentation unlike any diplomatic briefing in galactic history. Holographic displays showcased the horizon's transformative journey, each technological system reimagined from its original military purpose into a tool of unprecedented creation. "Technology is not defined by its origin," she explained, her voice resonating through advanced translation matrices, but by its potential to solve problems. The conference hall itself, was a testament to this philosophy. Adaptive environmental systems seamlessly supported delegates from wildly different physiological backgrounds. A methane-breathing Vornak diplomat could sit comfortably beside a silicon-based crystalline researcher, their unique environmental needs met without compromise. Dr. Kenzo Tanaka presented a comprehensive analysis of the Horizon's technological adaptations. Weapon calibration systems now design precision medical interventions. Energy weapon capacitors powered entire planetary restoration projects. Military-grade quantum computing networks became the foundation of a new approach to scientific collaboration. The most shocking revelations came from the ship's ecological and medical research teams. Technologies originally designed for destruction had become the most powerful tools of preservation and healing in galactic history. Commander James Chen watched from the side, a subtle smile playing across his features. The Galactic Concordance was witnessing a fundamental shift in understanding. This was not about military superiority. This was about reimagining the very purpose of technological development. Zexk, the crystalline researcher who had become a key collaborator, presented a groundbreaking analysis. The Horizon's approach represented more than a technological innovation. It was a philosophical revolution. Where most civilizations saw technology as a means of control or destruction, humans had demonstrated a radical alternative. Your species does not see barriers. Zexk communicated through the advanced translation matrix. You see potential. The most controversial and compelling moment came when the full details of the Turks' 9 restoration were revealed. A planet once considered a dead world now teemed with life. Entire ecosystems had been rebuilt from molecular foundations. The restoration went beyond simple terraforming. It was an act of planetary resurrection. Diplomatic representatives from civilizations that had long been in conflict found themselves collaborating. The Horizon's research models provided frameworks for solving challenges that had seemed impossible. Economic barriers began to dissolve as shared technological approaches emerged. Dr. Imani Okoro's presentation on adaptive problem-solving became the conference's defining moment. She demonstrated how the ship's technologies could be universally adapted, not just by humans, but by any civilization willing to embrace a new approach. We're not offering a solution, she explained. We're offering a method of thinking. The Galactic Concordance found itself at a crossroads. The technological paradigm that had defined interstellar relations for millennia was crumbling. The Horizon represented more than a ship. It was a living demonstration of a fundamentally different approach to technology, collaboration, and existence. As the conference concluded, one thing became abundantly clear. Nothing would ever be the same again. The UEA's Horizon had become more than a ship. It was a living symbol of humanity's potential. 10 years after its initial launch, the vessel had transformed the very concept of interstellar existence. What began as a military supercarrier had become the most important diplomatic, scientific, and humanitarian platform in galactic history. Commander James Chen stood on the observation deck, watching as delegates from 312 different civilizations worked together in the ship's collaborative spaces. The original military infrastructure had disappeared completely, replaced by something far more powerful, a living network of mutual understanding. Dr. Elena Rodriguez approached, her datapad displaying the latest collaborative achievements. The Horizon was no longer just a human vessel. It was a shared resource for the entire galactic community. Each deck, each research facility, each diplomatic chamber represented a new way of thinking about cooperation. We didn't just change a ship, she said, looking out at the stars. We changed how civilizations understand each other. The ecological restoration projects had become legendary. 12 planets once considered beyond recovery now flourished. The medical research conducted aboard the Horizon had developed treatments that saved billions of lives across multiple species. Diplomatic solutions that would have taken centuries were now resolved in weeks. Dr. Kenzo Tanaka's linguistic adaptation technologies had revolutionized communication. The translation systems no longer just converted words. They translated entire cultural contexts, allowing for unprecedented levels of mutual understanding. Species that had been in conflict for millennia now found common ground. Zeksk, the crystalline researcher who had become a permanent member of the ship's core team, represented a new kind of collaboration. Where once species would have remained isolated, now they worked together, their fundamental differences becoming sources of strength rather than division. The ship's original weapon systems had been completely repurposed. Missile tubes now housed vertical gardens that supported multiple species' nutritional needs. Energy weapon capacitors powered massive research facilities. The ship itself had become a living testament to the idea that technology could be transformed. Humans didn't just solve problems. Dissect communicated through the advanced translation matrix. They demonstrated that problems are opportunities in disguise. The Galactic Concordance had been fundamentally restructured. The old models of territorial control and military might had given way to collaborative problem-solving. The Horizon had become the primary model for interstellar cooperation, its technologies and approach studied by civilizations across multiple galaxies. Commander Chen reflected on the journey. The ship that was once expected to be a weapon of destruction had become humanity's greatest tool of creation. It had proven that the most powerful technology was not found in weapon systems, but in the capacity to understand, to adapt, to heal. As a new stellar mapping project began, a collaborative effort involving researchers from 47 different species, Chen allowed himself a moment of pride. The Horizon was more than a ship. It was a promise. A promise of what intelligent life could become when it chose understanding over conflict, collaboration over competition, creation over destruction. The humans had done more than change a ship. They had changed everything.